Hey, Talk Shop girls. I'm going to talk a little bit quieter. Hopefully, you can hear me. My household is now gone to bed, but I'm in the mood to talk about a video. just how God moves, miracles. So, this will be posted in the My Reflections section because they're just like my life experiences. You know, I think about like things like relationship and language, and we all have our own language, our own relationship. Like, I can't tell anyone, God talks to you like this, because then it's like a cookie cutter experience. Then you don't need to have a relationship or, presence or to seek God out for yourself. And that's what religion is, when it's like one person did something and for them it was meaningful and it was relationship and divine inspiration, divine revelation. And if we start to copy that formula, that's it. Like, we go to the formula, we don't default to that, and it's not God anymore. I'm just going to talk about a couple ways that God has, I believe, spoken to me. And it's not to say like, oh, God showed this one thing and I've arrived forever. It's a forever, I don't know, like evolvement. It's like a forever love story. It's not like when I met my husband on my first day, I arrived, just like my engagement didn't mean I arrived. Just as resolving our first conflict doesn't mean, okay, we made it as a couple. I mean, we're forever growing, maturing, evolving, right? And just because I got married doesn't mean that's it. Like, we're always going deeper. So what can I start with? I want to talk today about my house. Something about some health stuff regarding my husband. And oh my goodness, what was the third one? This is why I have to write things down. I just totally forget. Okay, let me write this down. Sorry, girls. This is for our own good. Health, house. I can't. It'll come to me. Sorry. Okay, so let's start with the home. I don't know if I've really talked about this or not. So when I met my husband, he was already looking for houses or property or something, okay? It's not like I came into his life and he already found it or I inspired it. That's something that he said he'd been looking forever. The area he lived in, it just started to get really trashy and safe. The market, when we were looking at homes, ridiculous. I mean, I joke around it, but like literally felt like meth mobile home labs were just being outbid. Anytime we'd go into something in the city that they built, if it's new, it's nice. A lot of people warned us it'd probably be low quality if it was built around COVID era. And then it was like cookie cutter houses, and he's like, I need space, I need some property, and especially because he's from Montana, he loves his space. And the area I grew up with my family, my mom, my dad, they built a house some time ago, and I've enjoyed having some privacy. Anyways, so I mean, we had some things that we were looking for in terms of a home, but we realized like we can't be picky, right? It's not like we have a bajillion dollars to be picky. And I remember we were dating for almost a year. So technically speaking, yeah, it was almost a year since I'd met him. And now this was August of 2022, before I was engaged. And I remember we had looked at homes, houses, paying for an apartment rent. Just, it was almost as much as renting something just owning and paying a mortgage. And we had visited quite a few homes, and I started to get frustrated. And then he made this comment about his roommate moving in. And I'm like, what? Like, are we not going to get married? Like, what's going to happen? I started to spin these things in my head, started to get nervous. And it's like, well, maybe this is my ego or insecurities coming up, or just questions of like, I'm not going to date him forever, and it was hard because he's like, well, I need a roommate. I can't necessarily afford a whole house payment by myself. There's just enough factors coming up. I didn't know what the solutions were, and I was getting frustrated. And I even had to, like, how sometimes we complain, we think we're praying, but we're just complaining to God. Oh God, How is this new couple who's supposed to serve you, how are we supposed to make it? Why can't you provide? Can't you just help us? Whether we're trying to help God out, give him solutions, whatever. And so, yeah, it was now August, and I had looked at homes. I mean, I was refreshing Zillow all the time. Everything was going, it was just, felt like a disaster, and I just didn't understand how it could even be solved. And we wanted something on the north side of where we live, like even more, well, where my family lived. I live in the Spokane area. My family lives like the north side up, and we were looking for something around that and even more north, kind of away from the city a little bit for just more privacy peace. Anyways, what happened was I was driving in my car. This was mid-August 2022. And I'm driving and I'm like, you know what, God, I don't know. Tanner's roommate, they need to live together. I don't know. I don't even know when I'm going to get married. I don't know anything. But God, whatever you want, I'm going to trust your higher wisdom. And I'm going to let go. And I'm not going to control this with my energy or my attitude. And because again, I'm thinking of the house, but this time I was like, I'm done. I let go. It's in your hands. And I know that we all have these process. We go through this. Lord, I surrender. Okay, now I'm proactive because faith with that works. Okay, now I'm back into surrender. Whatever you want. We have this dance, if you can say it like that. And so I finally was like, Lord, I let it go. And I'm taking the exit to go to my house, and I just hear this voice it was a very loud, straightforward, it almost felt like an intrusive thought because I wasn't thinking about it. It was just this direction, check Zillow. I heard it. And I was taken aback, whoa, what's that? Just very surprised that happened. And so I was like, okay, faith is very childlike. So I go home. I opened up Zillow, and the only thing that was coming up that was new or paid or sparked my attention was this home that I had looked at before. This was August. When I looked at it in June, it was a lot more expensive, and I was like, where is this place even? There's some private little pond lake area. I had no idea where this was. It was interesting. The inside looked really junky. The outside looked really cool. But it was when I first took that message and I forwarded it to Tanner months ago, he's like, that's so out of my budget, I can't. I was like, okay. Well, I guess they lowered it in July, and they had lowered it again in August, and then a little bit more the day before when I was checking it at the time. And that's the only thing that stood out to me in terms of our loan amount that was lower than, Tanner's loan, not mine, because it was going to be single income loan. And I was like, whatever, I don't see anything new. I'm just going to send it to Tanner. I think this was August 15th. Yeah, let's just say August 15th. I forwarded that message to Tanner. He was working. And then I call my friend and I start chit-chatting about life and, hanging out with her on the phone. And Tanner replies to me and he's like, well, I'm going to forward that to our real estate agent. Which, mind you, he had a real estate agent and she never even sent him this home. And it was weird that she didn't even send it because it kind of fell into a lot of the ramifications we were looking for. And next thing I know, he's like, I actually know that area. Right now we're working not too far away from it. That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And next thing I know, he's calling me. He's like, I already left work, but the real estate agent called and said, let's check it out now. I'm turning back to go back into the area, and I'm going to pick you up in 10 minutes. Be ready. Let's go. And I'm like, okay, whoa, that's very fast. Okay. Yeah, it's so crazy. All that happened so fast now that I even think about it again. And we drive over there. It's 20 minutes from my parents' house, which is perfect for me. And we start rolling up. I've never been there in that area, and I'm like, okay, what's this? And we start to roll up towards this little community, this little, I don't know, for me it was this nice little cute kind of private area. Oh my goodness. I started to get so hyped up so fast. I was like, shh, okay, calm down, telling my inner self, like, shh, chill out, don't make it a big deal. And I get out of the car and I see these trees, I see the plants, the driveway even. And again, this isn't like $1 million property. I remember writing, by the way, side note, in my journal years ago, certain little key things I would love to have. Key things that are important for me in a home. Not just a husband, but I've journaled about having a home. And, whether it's this house, our first house, whether it's my forever house, there's some key things I've always wanted. And it was like, I want a front porch, like a wraparound kind of porch. I've always been obsessed with those, like having chairs on them. I said, I want where the kitchen is, I want windows. I want a window in front of the kitchen sink. In fact, actually, windows in general. I love natural lighting. I'm obsessed with that. But I kind of went in details of these different things, or like even like a driveway where you can like fit people and park, especially because I love having home groups and these different things, and I understand like parking can be a pain sometimes in certain neighborhoods. I even like wrote bonus points by like a pond or a lake or something. I wrote like by some kind of body of water. I wrote these out years ago, and I took a picture once and sent it to Tanner when we were dating, and he's like, that's just so adorable. I love that you do that. I love that you write these things out. That's so just meaningful. So anyways, I come here and I'm like, what in the world? There's like a porch in front. Pff, immediately I'm like lit up. We go to the backyard. I'm like, wow, like you can't even see a single house. It looks like all this nature is yours, even though like the property is not like that huge. We walk over down. There's like a little tiny like lake, private made lakes. I call it like a lake pond. I wouldn't swim in it, but I've paddle boarded on it. That's nice. But anyways, we walk down to that lake. My heart, I'm like, are you serious? This is so awesome. This is so amazing. It's like summer. It's so beautiful. I'm just like, I'm obsessed. There's a skip, a beat in my little walk as I'm walking. Man, my heart, like I'm getting excited. That being said, we walked into the inside of the house and I was like, ugh, yikes, a little bit. I smelled some smoker, old people. The house in itself was new. 97 was the year they built it, but the style these older people had, God bless them, they just were stuck in like the 80s or something. Every wall was a different color. The ceiling was painted brown. I mean, their carpets were like, oh my gosh, like scratched up, peed up by animals. It was stinky. It was, oh gosh, again, like structurally, and his parents were big on like, oh, don't worry, it's gonna be your lipstick house. Whatever house you're gonna have, you can clean it up, put some lipstick, and it'll be good as long as it's structurally sound. Whereas I was like telling Tanner, I'm not gonna remodel, I'm not gonna be building. My parents built a house, like, no, thank you. I know what that's like, forever building, and I get overwhelmed and I don't have vision for homes or anything like that. That's hard for me. But then I come into this house and I'm like, oh, it's almost like it almost all fits together so nice. And the fact is, like, the outside area is so awesome. It's like you can clean up this house, renovate it, remodel it, as resistant as I was to like get into that experience. That there was just nothing else on the market. You'd have to renovate almost anything. And it's like if we ever need to sell it, it's gonna be hopefully equity. You will make some money off of it. And I'm just like, hey, Tanner, this is your choice. Like, I bless you. I'm thinking, like, if we get married, this is our house. Like, we'll remodel. His dad used to be a contractor. He can kind of remodel houses. I'm connected to a lot of people in my community who we can hire for help. But I'm going to do a little side note here. Women, I talk to you all about having the desires of your heart expressed, but you can't always know exactly the process and procedure of what it's going to be like. And so whereas I wrote out in my journal, like, how I want this home, how I want to experience it, like the meaningfulness, my vision even for this home, that was totally possible. Like, I could totally see a lot of that here for however many years we live here. But, you know, I had put down my foot, like, I don't want to remodel, I don't want to do this. And those were great guidelines until that was thrown out the window given certain situations. And I knew I needed to adjust. And I just, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, yeah, this is the house. Like, I can't, I don't want to remodel it. But yeah. So the thing is, like, the owners of this home, they had actually, someone else had already, they were gonna buy this home like a month or so ago, and they already bought a second, like, their other house. They moved out, and then the people who were gonna buy this house, their loan fell through, something happened, and that couple was like, we need to get rid of this house, like, we can't keep paying mortgage for two houses. And so they had like a very specific loan type that they made it that the new owners had to have, which Tanner did. Look how that happens, right? Magic. And Tanner's like, should we put a price down? Should we do it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, literally in like less than I don't know, 2-3 hours ago, I just heard check Zillow. Again, it wasn't me thinking of solutions and what should I do? It was like, landed loud. And now we're like, are we doing this? Or are we really doing this? You know, or are you doing this? I'm not married, but you know, side topic. But I said, Tanner, I think this is great. You're gonna love this. This describes you. There's peace. You can make it work. You can live here with your roommate. You can do your thing. And he put an asking offer because they had already lowered the price just last night. And the next morning we got a response saying offered accepted. Boom, 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 boom. That's not to say that the whole year, almost year since I met him, we weren't looking at a home, we weren't exploring. And yeah, this happened. Like, this is one story out of many where I honestly, anytime anyone says, how'd you find this house? I'm like, God. And it's like, I think about like this childlike faith that we have to have. And even like the woman, like, we're connected sometimes to such spiritual, like, abstract things. And again, I said, okay, I'll check Zillow. Okay, this came up. Why not just send it to my husband? I saw him do the rest, and he executed it. He made it done. Like, he called the realtor. We came here. He put in the offer. Like, he executed all of that. I just kind of positioned, what about this? And he could have said no, right? And anyways, basically, to kind of wrap up this story, because I mean, this is my testimony house. By September, he was moving in. His dad came out, and it's very, I remember what I was going to say, though. He moved in, and I said, okay, Lord, if he wants to be with his roommate, that's awesome. They figured out that price. And I said, Lord, I don't know how, and I'm not going to manipulate or beg or be like, maybe that guy needs to be out. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, if whatever needs to happen in this timeline, whatever God you have for me, like, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to trust your plan. And if Tanner needs to live with this roommate for who knows how long until, like, we're engaged and married, so be it. I'm not going to manipulate. I express my desire to you, God, to him. I want to be married. Let's see what happens. And I, like, kid you not, his roommate moves here. For, like, the first couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, like, he's like, oh, yeah, heck yeah, I like this place, this is great, da-da-da. Even though he just mentioned before, I'm going to live here forever type of thing, which is why I panicked. But all of a sudden, he starts, like, I don't know, complaining it's a far drive into town and all these other things, and he's so alone and is kind of removed from town and social stuff. And all of a sudden, he just asks, his roommate, Tanner, to go on a walk around this lake. Gorgeous place, by the way. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And he's just like, bro, like, thanks so much for inviting me out here. I appreciate it. I need to move back into town. I'm going to find my own apartment to rent. I can't do it. It's too alone. It's too quiet, or whatever his reasons were. I need to get out of here. Even though he had the whole basement to himself, basically. And that's kind of that, like, when Tanner later told me, like, oh my goodness, like, my roommate's just told me he's moving out. He, like, by his own choice, he's moving out. I'm like, really? Like, never in a quadrillion million years did I think that was gonna happen. And he did. Like, within, like, 2 weeks, he left. Which kind of brought to this next issue. Tanner's like, how am I supposed to pay for this by myself? And I wasn't planning, and I wanted a roommate. And again, I was like, Lord, you got this, because I don't know. You know, he's like, am I going to bring in some roommate and tell him like in a couple months I'm probably going to be engaged and then get married, so make sure to get out. But then this whole house was kind of a disaster because, you know, we had to remodel it. And he's like, who's going to even want to live in some of this kind of trash and stinky kind of place? So September, October, what's his name? His roommate moved out. And it's like so fast, mid-November, I was proposed to, and this is where I did express my desires. I said, okay, I'd like to get married. I don't want to stretch it out. I think we're just in a place where we're ready to merge our lives. But it makes no sense for me to move into this house unless literally the surface area is changed, because the walls are steeped in with smoke and the floors are scratched up or peed up and the ceiling is brown and smoked. So it's like, I'm like, there's just no point of me moving in, bringing all my stuff. I can't even hang anything. I can't, like, why? So I said, I know it's ambitious, and I also don't want to wait forever to get married, because I'm not going to move in until I get married. And if you want me to, like, help out in any way, again, we got to move forward. So I said it was mid-November, and I know this is kind of crazy, but I said mid-March, let's get married. And his family was over for Thanksgiving, and they were all kind of like, that's really ambitious, Elena. Why don't you, like, move in and do this slowly together? And honestly, I put my foot down and said, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not going to get done. I don't want to stretch it out. Like, I just expressed kind of what I'm thinking, and here was the plan. And my family said, we'll back you up, and, like, let's get started. And that's another, I mean, I wouldn't just say miracle, because there was a lot of labor put into this house. Like, we were thrown into planning a wedding and remodeling, and it was amazing to see my husband help me in so many different ways, and I was trying to do my part. Someone once was like, oh my goodness, they say remodeling really tests a relationship. I'm like, we're remodeling and planning a wedding and doing a bunch of stuff. Good news, we survived. Relationship was tested. But now, I'll say this, we have a beautiful home. Of course, there's always, like, little small things we still got to do, little stuff. But this house is completely changed up and renovated, and I love having a home. I love having my friends, people come over, and to me, it's a testimony house. And I always tell my husband, like, God moves in amazing, beautiful ways. I never know how he's going to act, but, like, I have to steward the moment. And sometimes in that feminine, if I could say, openness or playfulness, I got to just go for it. And I'm always surprised with, like, what happens, right? So this is kind of my life experiences. The more I'm open to what's happening. Again, my system, my nervous system was always stretched, my faith, my everything, right? And I'll share one story quicker, though. Even with my husband, without going into too much details, because I always want to respect him, but he had a couple health things going on, and I just kept praying, like, Lord, this is not the abundant life, for his health. And but I was just like, Lord, I don't know how, because again, I can't do a cookie cutter thing. I can't be like, oh, God talked to me, so he said check Zillow, and then I checked Zillow, and I got this house within 24 hours, and then the massive story that happened out of that. But the thing is, like, God, like, I know you're going to talk to me somehow, and I don't even know exactly what you're going to do with his health. But, like, and I'll say this, I think his health has been more of, like, an involvement. We're both learning things, changing things from lifestyle, health, foods. There's plenty of things that, like I say abundant life, and that's just not just emotions. Abundant life could be your diet and what are we eating or not eating. It goes into so many different, I don't know, domains in terms of, like, health, wealth, and well-being, right? But I had this one time, my husband was home from work on a Friday, and I tell him, like, I love you, but sometimes I still have work to do on Fridays. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I had been wanting to go to this one. It's in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and that from my house is it's over an hour, like an hour and 15 minutes. And I was feeling really cramped a little bit in the summer here. Like, I'm like, I need to get out. I don't know why, especially after I got married. I don't know, I think my nervous system was still kind of whacked out, and I just repeatedly needed to, like, go out and, I don't know, be around people. And plus it's like sunshine and the weather's good and I want to get out. Anyways, what happened was, it was Friday, and my husband's gonna be home. And technically, like, I could be like, oh, I'll do my work around you, and since you're here, and you can chill out and rest, and I'll just do some computer stuff. But something in me was like, I really, really, really want to go to Coeur d'Alene. And I tried to shake it off, and I couldn't. Like, I just desired, like, think of like a massive craving you have that makes you want to like get out and go get it, you know, go to that restaurant to order that specific food. Like, that's what I was feeling about Coeur d'Alene. I'm like, I don't even know, like, yeah, I have like a coffee shop I might go to that if I'm in the area I like. I had like an online class. I'm like, I could just go to a shop and listen to my, you know, participate in my live online class, like, whatever, I'll figure it out. And I just remember being like, Tanner, I know you're home, I love you, I want to go to Coeur d'Alene. I'm gonna go. And he's like, okay, like, it's kind of getting later. It's like over an hour drive. You sure? Like, more than welcome. Like, I support you. Go do your thing, but that's far drive. And I'm like, I know it sounds weird. I just really, 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 really want to go. So I got ready and I left. And when I was driving, I drove for like an hour, and I still was like 15 minutes away. And I'm like, why am I even doing this? So dumb. Why did I decide to do this? This is ridiculous. It's gonna start to get dark. Like, you know, all of a sudden I'm like, what sounded like a great idea all of a sudden started to feel so dumb. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I need to stop thinking like that. I'm almost there. I went to a class. I did my class. I did this. I did that. Like, nothing really crazy happened. I don't know. I enjoyed getting out, whatever. And I'm walking back to my car to go home, and I see this like soap, lotion, natural little store. I'm like, that's weird. I never saw that before. My friend's birthday's coming up. Maybe I'll just grab a nice natural lotion or body thing for her. Perfect. I'll stop by. And they were gonna be closing soon, like within the next like 15 minutes or something. I'm like, I don't remember seeing in this store here ever before, because I park by that coffee shop all the time. And they're like, oh yeah, we just opened. Today's our second day of our grand opening. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, cool. You know, and I'm like walking around, and one of the women, because it's like a small shop, and so they don't want to make small talk and connect themselves and serve their customers, which makes sense. And one of the ladies is like, can I help you with anything? You know, and I could have just been like, no, I'm good, thank you, you know, even though I'm clearly there for a reason. And then I decided to be open. You know, and anytime I've decided to be open, in my experience, it always helps me, but it's funny, I have to actually decide to open and speak out and share. And what happened was, you know, I found something for my friend, and then I decided, as like, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so for my husband. Any suggestions? And she's like, oh, you can maybe get this or maybe that. And then all of a sudden some other worker comes and joins the conversation, which part of me was like, oh my goodness, I kind of want to go home, kind of just getting antsy. But then the other part of it is like, okay, well, maybe they have input. Just be open, you know, be kind. This is a really awesome place. Why not just share? And then all of a sudden one of them is like, you know what? I remember the owner used to struggle with this too. Or had this, or found the solution, or whatever. She's actually here. She's not always here because she has multiple stores. I'm gonna get her. She's in the back. Next thing I know, I'm surrounded by 2 workers, plus the owner and her husband. And boy, was I blown away. The more I decided to finally share with these, you know, stranger people, good people. But like, you know, it's not like they know about all the details and personal things about my life and know me, but I was like, okay, here's what's going on, here's the struggle, here's this. And there was like one person who had one background, medical background, like, all of a sudden collectively they were educating me. I had been researching. You know how you don't know what you're looking for? It's really hard to find the answer. They started to give me the most amazing help and advice. And my mouth, I was like, are you kidding me? I would have never in a quadrillion years connected this symptom with this, with that, with this experience, with this environment, you know, all these things. And then, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I'm standing there shocked that it's all coming together. finally some of these answers, some, not everything, but some of the things on the path of our physical well-being started to make sense. And the other part of me is like, how did this happen? Like, I'm in Coeur d'Alene for this. And this woman's like, here, if you ever need a doctor, here's this, or here's this guy, or ask for this, or do that, or here's my opinion. So they basically illuminated a lot of stuff for me. And I come home and I'm like, Tanner, oh my gosh, like, look what happened, look how it happened. Like, I just felt like I really, 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 really wanted to go to Coeur d'Alene, and I use that desire, and look at that, like, something is being answered. And, you know, he was amazed. And it was the topic of discussion for the next couple of days. And we kind of wanted to have, like, the cool thing is we started to realize, like, like I said, I don't think we solved everything. I think there's a lot of changes that are happening in a good way, but that was one massive, massive part of the puzzle. And we're like, okay, well, they gave us some solutions. We want even more healthier kind of natural solutions. And then I was able to like research and look into things more and more. And like I said, they illuminated things I would have never in a quadrillion years ever have connected. There's just no way. Plus I'm like newly married at the time. So like, you know, I was just like living with him. Everything was new, you know, like I'll give you one example. Like our room is so hot upstairs. I love this house, but that is one issue. It gets really hot. And it was just starting to get even hard to breathe, you know, in the summers. And I was just kind of equating it to like, it's so hard to breathe because of the heat or whatever. But we had some other things that were like, started to make sense that I didn't even connect because again, like I've only like at the time lived like 1-2 seasons in this home, and we're still learning these different things. Anyways, my point is I then started to research a bunch of stuff, and then I found one solution, and then that solution, then we were able to find something that worked even better for something else. And then it just started to like, I mean, you know, even like a couple weeks ago, he found something else that he really enjoys. So it's not like God said, this is it, and do this, and change that, and da-da-da, you know, but it's this like evolvement in life in terms of staying connected. And there's a couple other things where I'm like, Lord, I know the abundant life I'm praying for. I don't know how. I could dream about it. Some stranger can come up and tell me something, you know. I don't know. I don't know. But the more I'm open to life and the things that come to me, or the things that I share, or sometimes letting go and putting it on the altar, as they say, I'm just always blown away by the amazing ways that God speaks to me. So again, that Coeur d'Alene thing, I just was like, oh my gosh, like you had me drive out this thought. Oh, and let me back up. This lady, at least to one part of the problem, that part that we were figuring out, she said, I've spent over $40,000. I have spent years and years and years struggling and trying to figure out and researching until finally, you know, boom, boom, boom. And the thing is, like, it puts things in perspectives. Like, I'm like complaining after a couple months, like, Lord, what is this? What's going on? And then how I even got that solution is still way better, you know, than us struggling and paying tons of money, not knowing what's going on. So I'm just sharing these little testimonials and stories of the interesting ways that God has been speaking to me, problem solving, you know, and I can say I wish I can get better at like immediately being tuned in and being obedient immediately. But I you know, I'm not perfect, and there's plenty of times where I'm like, I wonder if that was a solution from God that I kind of missed. But I do believe that God will continue to open up and share things the more we're proactive. So just sharing this for anyone who wanted to kind of learn more or hear more about some of the interesting ways that the more I kind of tune into God, what that looks like for me in these different ways, the more amazing solutions I experience in my life. And I will continue, because like even this health thing, like I said, like even this house, right? Like I'm like, I could have lived here for a couple of years and it serves its purpose, and we move away. Who knows, right? We've experienced a lot has happened. Whoa. But even like my husband's health thing, I'm like, Lord, I'm still praying for this. Like we're not done. We've made lots of steps. we've been doing a lot of different things. I've been open to, being the woman, the female that brings a lot of solutions and revelations from God. And there's, like I said, things we're going to be changing in terms of even from food, certain specifics that we've been doing and changing to just all these different like lifestyle stuff. So yeah, sometimes we think about abundance like, again, a miracle thing, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it's like a progression because we're continuing to seek God and learn about the unique ways that He connects and speaks to us. So hopefully this encouraged somebody, and I'll share more later. But ladies, blessings and bless, and I'll talk to you later.